the Raiders. They take Brock Bowers in the first round. They have Gardner Minshew. Okay. They have no guards that can protect the middle of the pocket. They signed a center, Andre James, who's marginal at best. They gave him a big contract, but that's been the weakness of their team, the inside part of the field. And so with Minshew at 6 feet tall, if you get into the paint, which is what I call the area between the tackle, the guards' outside shoulders, 5 yards deep, if you get in the paint with Minshew, it's over. He doesn't have enough arm. He doesn't have enough ability to be able to make that tight window throw in the paint. Brady had struggled with that. That was Brady's kryptonite. Get in the paint. Get in front of him. Stand in front of him.
So you see Minshew over Giants. You see Minshew as a starter over at O'Connell.
I don't know how they can start O'Connell. I watched every game on O'Connell, and that, the guy scored 0 points against the Minnesota defense. I mean, that, and he's got, he had Jacoby Myers, he got Devontae Adams, they had Michael Mayer. But, they struggled. They had Josh Jacobs. I mean, they had offensive weaponry. They led the league in rushing 2 years ago. Look, I think Aiden O'Connell's a nice player as a backup, but the Raiders have 2 backup quarterbacks. They don't have a starting quarterback. Gardner Minshew, to me, Gardner Minshew is a middle reliever. You bring Gardner Minshew in the 4th inning, you hope to get to the 8th and to get to your closer. If Gardner Minshew has to start 17 games, his body isn't built for 17 games. He's not a big human being. And what people lose sight of is when quarterbacks' legs go, the leg strength of your quarterback is where your arm strength comes from. And so when you just lose a little bit of arm strength, all of a sudden people start playing more zone on you. They break on the ball. And that becomes detrimental to the team.
I told you that, JB. Told you Minshew is a backup.
My good friend, you know him as well. I coached him at Purdue, and he says this guy has all the NFL ability as far as throwing the ball from every hash, every throw. He said, I just don't know. He said he's got to get his feet wet. He got a little bit wet last year, but I don't know if you could start. I agree with you. I think Minshew is just comfortable in his role as a backup. I don't know if he's the guy, the difference maker. And that's why I thought drafting Brock was good, Bowers, because I think at least I can get in some 12, dictate the safeties, rotation or coverage, and just isolate Devontae Adams and be safe with the football and run the football. I don't know. I could be wrong. I think that's the only
you got to run the ball out of 12. If they're in base, it's going to be a hard thing to do. When you're in 12, you want them to be in nickel. It's what you want to dictate the personnel group based on your skill. And so if Bowers is if he becomes the H, which is what he will, and Meyer, and they decide to play nickel, and you can't run the ball out of that. It's what Atlanta's problem is. They put Pitts on the field. He can't block anybody. So when they're in 11, people treat that as 10. They're not worried about them running the ball. Yeah. If they're in 11, they know they have no weak side run. They have no strong side run game because Pitt can't block at the point of attack.
Yeah.
Right.
So where are we going with the ball? We're going to run weak side. Who's the weak side slot? Who's receiver? Is he going to block somebody who's bigger than him? I think the Raiders' problems institutionally start with the offensive and defense, the offensive line particularly. They can't control the game. You never get control of the game if you can't block. That's the biggest problem. And you become a better defense when your front can control the game and when your offense can control the game with their front. And I love Josh and I love Dave Ziegler. I think the biggest mistake they made, and I've said it, is the last position you fix on your team when you start somewhere is the wide receiver, because it takes the team to get the ball to them. It takes protection. It takes execution, right? This isn't a one-on-one isolation. Just let Anthony Edwards go to the rim. That's not the game. So when you don't have that, all of a sudden everything else breaks down. So when you take over a team, if you don't fix the lines, it's what Jim Harbaugh says. The line dictates everything. And the Raiders have been neglecting their lines since Colton Miller's selection. And I think that's their biggest issue.